Good morning, Jero 508. So it is our last week. Told you this is going to go by really quickly. So wonderful job. Father's Day weekend is now June 16th, and yeah, it was great. Had a great Father's Day yesterday, and both my son and I went and got haircuts, which was really cool. You see right there over my shoulders, those are all the pictures of when I was soccer coach. Okay, that's the kind of volunteerism we all need to do. 4 years with my youngest son Dave. We had a pretty cool team, all about Father's Day. So now we're going to move on, and unfortunately over Father's Day we did have some homework. Okay, we did have a discussion that was really nicely done by Mark and May, looking at one topic that was a little different, which is vision, and then two kind of related topics, which was the urinary system and sexuality. They're related because they kind of use the same kind of organ systems down there. And really good discussion by everybody about the protecting our visual system. Like I said, I have my Costco cheaters here that pretty much indicate that I have undergone the aging process, which is farsightedness related to changes in the dynamics of my lens proteins, and then lots of discussion about protecting our eyes and what we can do. And we've had this reoccurring theme. We'll have it this lecture, last lecture, all of our lectures about socioeconomic status, and all of us are really blessed by being educated, and with education comes empowerment and being able to make the right kind of decisions based on how educated we are. And so we all know that we need to improve our diet, and we know how to improve our diet. We all are familiar with antioxidants, and we're familiar with the concept of oxidized proteins and inflammatory responses, and how we can take these antioxidants to minimize the damage. And this is definitely the case in terms of diabetic retinopathy and also macular degeneration. In fact, if you go in and you look at websites about what can I do to reduce my risk for macular degeneration, they talk about broccoli and kale and all these other types of vegetables that are really high in the natural antioxidants that are out there. So, and then Mark and May went in discussion of the urinary system and also sexuality, and these are definitely hot topics, and we kind of got into this great kind of banter about Kegels. I remember I was first exposed to Kegels when Matt, who's now 18, was soon to be born, and I used to go to the special birthing classes with my wife Julia, and it felt like kind of a fool sitting there with her doing the Kegels together. But it is good practice. Maybe not so necessary now that I'm not feeling any risk, but it's in the back of my head that when Father Time catches up to my urinary system, that this is a positive approach. And the other thing, of course, you need to do is watch your caffeine, watch your alcohol, watch these different diuretic-like compounds that will cause your bladder to distend more rapidly than usual. Great discussion on that. Thank you, Phil, for the wonderful graphic on the Kegels. It was very powerful. And then we went into sexuality and the discussion of how important it is. And I kind of tried to put the spin of biology on it a little bit, and just how why is it that we feel so good, and the reference to the hormones that are released by this partnership, the hormones that are released in the brain. And it's real interesting how one hormone, oxytocin, is released as part of it's the bonding hormone. They call it the tribal hormone. So it's not only released during sex, but it's also released during lots of other things. And then that bond cultures together. And then how that releases dopamine, and then dopamine affects oxytocin affects dopamine. It becomes this really positive cycle that if you're in good relationships, it goes on and on and on. So great discussion. And now we're going on to mental illness. And Sarah and Faye have done just this wonderful job. When we look at it, a really big topic, okay? And they did a wonderful job of kind of laying things out. You know, what impacts our mental health, and they got into a really important kind of area to focus in on, and that's modern life and stress. And not only, you know, you think about the psychology of stress, but that you guys are all in tune that there's an underlying biological response to the psychology of stress. When we have our fight or flight response, we release a ton of cortisol from our adrenal glands. Our brain instructs the adrenal glands to do so. And cortisol causes, long-term cortisol causes a dramatic decrease in the serotonin receptors in our brain. Okay, and as you guys all know, serotonin is the neuromodulator in our brain that controls our mood, our sense of well-being. And so because we have fewer receptors because of this cortisol effect, it precipitates significant depression. And they went through a lot of the disorders, you know, that go hand in hand with depression. You know, so they went into anxiety. And, you know, phobias, general anxiety disorder, panic, OCD, and PTSD. And plenty of studies have done the epidemiology where you look at people, especially our war heroes coming back to the United States, and sampling their blood, and their cortisol levels are chronically sky high. And if you look at their epidemiology, they pretty much universally all suffer from some form of clinical depression. Okay, so then Sarah and Faye do a great job of going in and discussing the symptomology of clinical depression and giving it its distinct classification, and really getting through the stigma of mental health disease. You know, and it's really sad, you know, and that we all embrace diversity in cultures, but we don't embrace diversity in the way the human brain works. You know, we all have some aspect of mental problems in terms of the continuum. Yeah, maybe it's not clinical, but it's right there. Okay, they go into the underlying causes and bridging the link between nurture versus nature. Okay, so you can be genetically at risk and experience something that will precipitate a problem. Okay, they go through the demographics and then finish with alcoholism, which is really prevalent in lonely people. Okay, especially people who have lost their significant other. Okay, this is a great lead to the next set that we'll talk about polypharmacy. Okay, and using drugs that are anxiolytics, using drugs that are antidepressants, and managing these. And this all has to do with polypharmacy and aging that both Phil and Lena have gotten together to do, again, another wonderful presentation. So everything is kind of linked together. Alrighty guys, thank you, and we'll see you next time.